guys, TAFHD here and welcome back to another video, and I thought today we would take a look at my phone collection. I'm not actually a phone collector, I've never intended on collecting phones. This is just kind of what has happened over time. People give me their old phones, I have old phones which I don't sell, and they are now all in here. So today we're just going to have a quick look through these. I'm not going to turn them on, most of them probably don't even work anymore. I do have all the chargers, but that is just a load of hassle, and quite frankly I can't be bothered turning them all on. So just assume that they are all not working. If they do work, that is a nice surprise. Maybe in the future I will turn some of them on and explore them if anyone is interested. So without talking for too long, let's get started looking at these phones. So I think first off we'll take a look at the older ones, which are in this box on the left. Okay, so I've now got a bit of a closer angle. I'm just going to take one phone out of the box at a time and we'll have a quick look at it and talk a bit about it. And I think the first one I will go for is this very distinctive looking little thing. This is a Motorola Pebble. This one in particular is the pink one, and to open it you slide down, then up it goes. There we go. That is what it looks like. Very shiny in there. The buttons are very small, but it's quite a cool looking phone. This was my mother's. She only stopped using it because she spilt hand sanitizer on it, and that's before hand sanitizer was the trendy thing to have. I think that was probably in about 2008 or 2009, but this is still a working phone. She just stopped using it because it got all sticky and the screen has some dark patches on it, but this thing I believe does still work, and it runs the same interface and the same OS as this. This is a Motorola Razer V3. This is the black one. There we go. This is such a cool phone. This one does work and it pretty much runs the same thing as the Pebble. So I think these are from about the same time period. You can kind of tell that the designs are similar in some ways, and yeah, these are both working phones and they still are pretty cool to have a play around with. Motorola, I think, is probably one of my favourite manufacturers of old school phones, as you can probably tell by the next two that I'm about to get out. These are both identical devices. These are both Motorola W220s, not to be confused with the Mercedes W220. These are little Motorola cheap pink phones. These were both my grandmother's. She had one, then one of them stopped working. The screen just went white and wouldn't do anything, so she got another one, and eventually the same thing happened to that. If you hit them really hard on a desk then turn them on, they tend to work for a little while, but then they just cut off again. So these aren't really usable, but they do have some pretty cool songs built into them. I couldn't play them now because they're probably copyrighted, but these are two very nice, very cheap little phones, very easy to use. There is some built-in games on them, which is quite nice also. So I've got two of those, which are quite nice to have matching ones. And also on the front, when they do work, it lights up telling you if you've got a missed call or an unread text, so that is convenient. Instead of having to open to check, it just tells you while the lid is closed. And so do the other two Motorola's. In fact, these ones both have little screens on them. So yeah, that is very nice. I do very much enjoy these old Motorola's. Next up is this. This is a Sony Ericsson S500i. This was my mother's. This is what replaced the Motorola Pebble. I believe this was from some dodgy phone shop in the dodgy part of town. It was probably stolen at some point, but she didn't steal it. She got it for a very good price, and as you can see, it's one of those slidey phones. You slide it up to get to the keyboard. Now this one kind of started to fall apart, so it is kind of all taped together. It's got a 2 megapixel camera on the back. Very nice. This is a pretty good looking phone. It is nice and compact. If you need the keyboard, just slide it up and there it is. I believe this one does actually still work. One which doesn't work is the phone which replaced the Sony Ericsson. It was another Sony Ericsson. This is a Sony Ericsson Cybershot, so this one was more focused on the camera. As you can see, when you slide it up, the camera then comes out. This was a replacement for the purple one, and this is actually a very cool phone. Once you have slid it up, more camera options come up on the side of the bezels, so you can do all sorts of different photography things, and the pictures that came off this thing were actually quite good. Now, I said that this thing doesn't work anymore. That's because no matter what battery I put in this, it says turn off device immediately. Remove battery and do not charge. So there is something very up with it. This uses the same battery as this, so I've tried both batteries in the other phones. The batteries all work, this phone just doesn't seem to like any battery anymore, which is a shame. So this thing can't be turned on without the phone getting very upset. But this is quite a nice design. The buttons have kind of gone all sticky and difficult to click over time, but I do quite like this phone. And this phone was replaced by an iPhone 4S, and I'll get onto that later. But yeah, these two are quite cool. I do like Sony Ericssons. Along with Motorola's, I think these were quite good phones. The next phone, I can't really talk about it being good because I've got absolutely no experience with it. I'm guessing the person who had this thought it was good because they decided to abandon it at the side of the road, hidden in some mud, and this had a distinct smell to it when I got it, so I believe it might have been used for dealing. I'm not going to say what sort of dealing, maybe card dealing, but not exactly legal dealing. So yeah, I don't really know why I've still got this. I thought maybe someone might have lost it, but I doubt that was the case. It was probably used to deliver things to people, arrange deliveries. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, no one ever owned up for this being their phone. The next phone here is this. This is actually a very big old phone. This is an NEC E616. This is a very early phone on the 3 network. I believe this is actually a 3G capable phone, one of the first ones that was commercially available. I don't have a battery for this. I don't have a charger for this. This was just given to me by a friend a couple of years ago. I've done nothing with it because I'm not really sure what to do with it, but it's quite cool to have an NEC phone. I don't have any others by this company, and this one was actually pretty advanced for the day. As you can see, it's got a screen on the outside, and it also has a camera with a flash. I'm guessing this thing probably would have been quite expensive. Next up is a little Samsung. This is actually very little indeed. If I get my S20 Plus, put it next to there, you really can see the difference. Look at that. Even when I slide the keyboard up, this is still a very small phone. Now, I'm not exactly sure where this one came from. I thought that this was my auntie's and she stopped using it because it broke. She dropped it in some wine and it stopped working. I'm pretty sure that's where it came from, but she completely denies this ever being her phone, and she also denies ever drinking wine, so I don't actually know where this came from. But I do have a charger which fits it. I've plugged it in and it works, so I don't know what's going on there. It boots up saying Samsung Fun Club, which is pretty cool, and as far as I tested it a few years ago, it seemed to work just fine. I actually took it to London with me once and took a few pictures on the camera on here, because it does have a camera and a flash, and this thing works out just fine for me. So I don't actually know whose this was or why they stopped working it, because the story I thought was true apparently is not the case. So don't know where it came from, but it seems to work, which is pretty cool. Another Samsung which also works is this little thing. I don't know the model of this. It's got a blue backlit display and it's got loads of songs downloaded on it. I think this was my mother's at some point in time. I'm guessing the model will be in the battery compartment. This is a Sgh A800. Don't know if that means anything to anyone, but this is actually very cool. When you boot it up or shut it down, a little witch flies past on the external display, and you can take the aerial off and replace it with the lighty up flashy ones, which my mother said that she used to do all the time. So this is a very nice phone. The speaker works on it and the whole phone does work once it is charged. I've got a charger for it. Let's see if there is any charge in it. It does seem to hold for quite a long time. Doesn't look like there's any charge in it at the moment, but this thing does still work, so maybe in the future we can have a look at some of these when I have charged them. But this is quite a nice little phone. I did actually use it for a while with my SIM card in it back when these sort of things were still usable, and yeah, no problems with it. Great little phone. I highly doubt it's worth anything anymore. I doubt any of these are really worth anything, but I might as well keep them instead of just chucking them in the bin. So yeah, this thing is quite nice and I will be keeping a hold of it along with all the others for quite some time. Next up, yet again, is one with a bit of a confused story. I thought this was my auntie's also. She denies it. This is an SL55 by that company. You can say that how you want. I'm not going to say it at all. I'm not going to risk it. But that is the company that made this. This is another slidey phone, an SL55. Again, not a Mercedes, it is a phone. This is actually quite a nice silver and red one. Don't know whose it was, don't know if it works, I don't have a charger for it. I do have the battery, it's built into the back cover. Apparently it was made in Germany, which is pretty cool, and yeah, don't know if this works. Highly doubt it, but yeah, it's quite a nice looking little compact phone. The next one definitely is not compact. This is an old Philips phone. I don't actually think this is a real one. I think it is a demo unit which would have been used in a shop, and I don't know if I should say this, but I think it was stolen from Carphone Warehouse or something similar like that. I didn't steal it, I was given to it about 10 years after it was stolen or so. I suspect this thing is very light and I don't think there is anything going on inside it. But I do have another Philips. This is an old Savvy dual band. This one is real and it was my grandmother's before she had the two pink Motorolas, so quite a big step forward going from this to a flip phone with a colour display. I don't have a battery for it. I have no idea whether it still works. Don't know where the charger is for it, but I'm guessing it probably did still work when she stopped using it. I think she just got an upgrade because she could, so maybe if I could find the right charger and battery, this would boot up, but I highly doubt it will be able to do anything. I'm guessing it's just got calling functionality, so yeah, probably no real use for this thing in the modern day. Next up, this thing's cool. This is a Nokia 3330, not the iconic 3310, this is the 3330. I believe this is the smaller one. As you can see at the minute there is a sheep faceplate on it, and on the back is Budweiser. Quite a strange combination. I do have lots of different faceplates and backplates for this. I'm not exactly sure where they all are at the moment. And I've also got different keypads that you can put in. This is currently a glow-in-the-dark one, and it is actually glowing right now. If I do that, I doubt you'll be able to see it, but it is somewhat glowing. This thing does apparently work. I've had it on once and then lost the charger, so if I can get another charger, this can definitely have its own dedicated video in the future. This thing is definitely pretty cool. It's got some weight to it and it does have Snake on it. That's what I can remember, so hopefully I can get a charger for this and we can take a look at this in more depth in the future. This is definitely a very, very cool phone. There is now only two more phones in this box. One of them I can dismiss straight away. This is an old BT Landline. I think it works, but I'm not really going to test it because I've got no interest in this. This is just a cheap, tacky thing. Would have probably been quite cheap at the time. Yeah, looks alright. I guess it would serve its purpose if I needed it to. But apart from that, there is only one more phone to see in here, and this is a Blackberry Curve. I guess you could argue that this was my first somewhat smart-ish phone, if you can call a Blackberry a smartphone. This is quite an early Curve one. This is an 02 edition. I've got it in a blue case. I got this case from B&M Bargains. It must have been about 10 years ago now, if not a little bit more. This thing does still fully work. I've got the charger and the battery for it, and it is very fun to use the physical keyboard. Of course, Blackberries are really no more. They have all now been cut off as of last week when I am filming this, so this thing is pretty much useless now, but it was always fun to do a bit of emailing with in the past, and also you could get some apps on this thing as well, so this was very cool phone. After this I started using my mum's old iPhone 4S, so from this to an iPhone was quite a nice jump, and it's the sort of thing that most people did back in the day. They had these as their business phones, then they upgraded to an iPhone a couple of years later. This is a very nice phone. I do still enjoy playing about with it from time to time.
Alright, so I was just editing and realised that this video was going to be too long, about half an hour, 35 minutes, or that sort of thing. So I've decided to split this video up into two. You've now finished watching the first half. This was all the older phones, and next time we will look at the more modern ones which are in the box on the right. So apologies for having to split this up, but it was going to be too long. So next week we will take a look at the other phones. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.